Hello everyone, welcome to our lecture in General Physics 1. In this video, we're going to discuss introductory topics in physics, highlighting the basic concepts in measurements. Our objectives is to solve measurement problems involving conversion of units, as well as to familiarize the different fundamental units and the different systems of measure, and to express measurements with correct significant figures and in scientific notation. So let's start with measurements. But first, again, so the flow of discussion is discussion of the concepts, and for our class participation, for the concept builders, you may submit your answers in the Padlet link provided. So you may pause the video once we get into the concept builders. You may pause the video and just resume watching after you submitted your answers. So let's start with measurements. So when we want to quantify, or when we want to numerically describe the property of an event, the property of an object, or characteristics of an object, we can do it in two ways. So first, we can do it by counting. So sabi natin, di ba, sa statistics, there are those data that can be counted, or the countable data. So if you think that the data you needed is countable, then proceed with the counting method. However, we know that most of the data needed, especially in physics, because physics is an experimental science, so the data needed cannot be counted. So we cannot use counting methods. So in those cases, we use instruments to provide the numbers we needed. So in those cases where we use instruments to gather or to get the numerical value needed, we need to perform measuring, the process of measuring. So measurement is the process of assignment of numerical value to an object's physical properties. So yung physical properties, just take note that physical properties is synonymous to dimension, and we'll learn this later. So synonymous siya doon sa sinasabi natin na dimension. When we use numbers to describe a physical property, we must always specify the unit that we are using. So we need to assign units to the numerical quantity of measurements to convey the relative size or the relative magnitude of the property we are describing. So we need to assign units to the numerical quantity. So when we incorporate the magnitude or the numerical quantity, so if we incorporate this with the corresponding units, this is now called a physical quantity. So di ba kapag quantity, ibig sabihin yan is referring to a number. So quantity, physical quantity. So physical quantity is any number that describes a physical property. So that is what is a physical quantity. So nandun na yun sa module natin yung definition ng ating physical quantity. So again, kapag sinabi nating physical quantity, it must be a number together with the corresponding units. So for example, 9 meters. So 9 is the number, meter is the units, or 20 kilograms. Ayan. So 20 is the number, kilogram is the unit. So that is a physical quantity. So sabi dito, it is important because by assigning units to the numerical quantity, we are able to convey the relative sizes of the property or the relative magnitude of the property. So for example, bibili ako ng sapatos sa mall, tapos sasabihin ko lang dun sa salesperson, bibili ako ng sapatos na 9. So if you just mentioned 9, there is no meaning to this number. So sabi diba natin, a number is just a number unless you place a meaning to it. At anong magbibigay ng meaning dito sa number 9? That is the unit of measurement. So instead of saying 9, just say 9 inches. Or kung gumagamit kayo ng ibang unit, then just include whatever unit they are using. However, in real life situation, since it is customary na alam naman natin na sa size 9 or size 6, size 10 refers to inches, So, hindi na natin binabanggit siya in real life. But, technically, you need to include. So, malay mo, di ba, merong size 9 cm, pang manika pala yung sapatos, tas binili mo. Maraming nabubudol sa online shopping, di ba? So, yun. So, you need to, to incorporate the corresponding units to the magnitude in order to describe a physical property. In physics or generally in science, there are 7 fundamental quantities that numerically represent the 7 primary dimensions or the 7 fundamental properties of an object. So, to define fundamental quantities, asa na yun? Yan. So, fundamental quantities are basic quantities that are independent from one another. So, the units that corresponds to the fundamental quantities are called the fundamental units or the base units. So, here are the 7 fundamental quantities. So, we have here the length, the mass, the time, temperature, electric current, luminous intensity, and amount of substance. But if you want to easily recall this, you can just recall this one. So, METTALL. So, M for the mass, E for electric current, T for time, another T for temperature, A for amount of substance, L is for the length, and L is for the luminous intensity. This is an easy way to recall the 7 fundamental quantities. So, metal, but with double T and double L. So, since there are 7 fundamental quantities, there are also 7 fundamental units that measures these quantities. So, ito yung 7 fundamental units, and these are the symbol of these units. So, fundamental units are, since these are fundamental, sabi natin, so these units are also called base units. Ayan. So, kapag base units, hindi mo na siya ma-furtherly divide into, or wala na siyang, you cannot derive these units from other units. So, siya yung basic units na kailangan mo to build other units or to build other quantities. Okay, so before we discuss derived quantities, so to differentiate base quantities or fundamental quantities or the base units from the derived units or the derived quantities, base units are those, so base units are those which can be defined, asan na yung pen? Which can be defined only by the way it was measured. Kasi hindi natin siya mababase, so we cannot derive the base units kasi base units nga sila, diba? So we cannot derive it from other quantities. So, the basis for these base units to be defined is only by the way it was measured. So, let's go to your module and look at some of the examples. So, here are the quantity, fundamental quantity with their corresponding units. So, the base units of this corresponding quantity can only be defined by the way it was measured. So, for example, 1 meter is the distance traveled by the light in a medium during a time interval of 1/299,792,458 fraction of a second. So, another example would be 1 kilogram is the standard platinum iridium cylinder kept at the International Bureau of Weights and Measures in France. So, if you read this description or definition of a 1 kilogram, what is a 1 kilogram? Hindi mo maintindihan. So, this is the way on how they obtained 1 kilograms in real life. So, that's how they define these fundamental units. And the same with the other fundamental units. So, that's how they define it. So, compared to the derived units, so derived units and derived quantities are resulting from the combination of any of the fundamental quantities, or when we say derived units, ayan, so pag derived units, those are quantities or units defined by describing how it was calculated from other quantities. So, may it be a fundamental or another derived quantity. So, to give you an example, here are the common derived quantities. So, we have here speed, meters per second, acceleration, area, volume, force, and energy. So, for example, let's take force. So, if we define force, force is the product, so basta product yan. So, product of mass and acceleration. So, this is a fundamental quantity and this is a derived quantity. So, this is a calculation, diba? How to solve for the force. So, ito yung definition niya. So, force is defined as the product of mass and acceleration. And, for example, speed is distance divided by the time elapsed. Or acceleration is equal to, okay. So, acceleration is equal to the change in velocity divided by the time interval or the time elapsed. So, as you can see, these derived quantities are defined by the way it was calculated. So, kung anong mga kailangang other quantities to get the value. Pero kapag fundamental quantities, it was defined based on how it was measured. So, kung paano siya mineasure in real life, yun ang definition ng fundamental quantities and fundamental units natin. Okay, so let's have a concept builder. So, bago tayo mag-move on sa systems of measure, let's have a concept builder. So, identify whether the SI unit needed to describe the following scenarios are base units or derived units. So, you can answer this in the Padlet link provided. So, you may pause this video and then resume watching after you submitted your answers. Okay, so let's answer number 1. So, number 1, sabi dito, the speed of gliding down the zip line of Embarcadero. So, here we need to identify whether the units needed are base units or derived units. So, we know that speed, to define speed, it is the total distance divided by the total time. So, therefore, since we define it by the way it was calculated, so dito, ang sagot dito is derived unit ang kailangan natin. Next is power consumed by the province of Albay. So, ano ba yung power? Okay, so ano kaya yung power? So, power is, ang needed natin dyan na units are derived units. So, kailangan natin siyang i-describe using a derived unit. So, asan na yung pen ko dito? So, derived units. Because power is what's divided by the change in time. So, yan. So, how about the height of Mayon volcano? So, height is a measure of length. So, therefore, height, so sabi natin, ang length is a fundamental quantity. Therefore, height can be described using a base unit or fundamental unit or base unit. So, how about water pressure in Legazpi City? So, pressure. Ano kaya ang pressure? Can we describe it using a base unit or a derived unit? Okay, so pressure can be described using a, saan na yun? Okay, using a derived unit kasi pressure, diba, is force divided by the area, force per area. Last, we have distance from Sawangan Park to Buceles. So, distance is a measure of length. So, diba? Distance is a measure of length. Therefore, this can be described using a fundamental unit. The two most widely used systems of measurement are the metric system and the English system. In modern days, metric system is also called as the SI units or the System International Units or International System of Units. So there are two variations of metric system. So first is the MKS system and second is the CGS. So MKS stands for meter, kilogram, and second system, while CGS is for centimeter, grams, and second system. So, depende sa kung anong klaseng experiment ang ginagamit nila. Sometimes is MKS or sometimes CGS. So, while English system is also known as the FPS system or the foot-pound second system. So, it is also called as the British system, or before it is known as the imperial system. So most countries around the world, so most of the regions around the world make use of the metric system as the basis for their standard unit of measurement. So ito yung mas ginagamit ng madaming bansa sa iba-ibang parte ng mundo. So while English system, there are only 3 countries left that make use of English system as their main system of measure. So those countries are the USA, Myanmar, and Liberia. So these countries mainly use English system as their system of measurement. But take note that from time to time, we can use English system. Yung Philippines, for example, use metric system. But from time to time, if it is needed, we can use English system or we can use metric system. So we can switch back. But the main system of measure for standard measurement na ginagamit ng Philippines and the rest of most of the countries around the world is the metric system. So here are the corresponding units for the 7 fundamental quantities. So for length, we have here the meter. For mass, kilogram. For time, second. For temperature, we have Kelvin. Electric current, we have ampere. Luminous intensity, candela. And for the amount of substance, we have mole. And of course, you need to familiarize yourself with the symbol. And some of the other common quantities are the following and the corresponding units. So just refer to your module for this table. Ando naman siya. So most of the countries or regions prefer metric system because it is easier to relate or convert smaller units to its equivalent larger unit of measurement for the same physical quantity. So the value of the different fundamental and derived quantities is sometimes composed of very large or very small numbers. So in converting from your base unit to its larger equivalent or smaller equivalent, of course you need some conversion factor. So in metric system, it is easier because you just need to recall this exponential factor of multiples of 10 raised to a certain degree of exponent. So for example, asan na yun? So for example, you want to convert 1 meter to kilometer. So here, if you can see, so 1 meter is equal to 1,000 kilometer. So 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meter. So kung ayaw nyo gamitin yung 1,000, you can also use 1 kilometer is equal to 1 times 10 raised to 3 meter, because 1 times 10 raised to 3 is equal to 1,000. So for example, you want to convert 1 meter to terameter. Terameter, ayan. So just recall that 1 terameter is equal to 1 times 10 raised to 12 meters. So 1 times 10 raised to 12 meters. So instead of writing this very long sequence of number, just use this exponential factor. Ayan. So, kapag positive, so if this is our base unit, kapag positive ang exponent ng ating base, positive yung exponent ng base, ibig sabihin, larger yung unit compared doon sa ating base unit. Pero kapag negative yung exponent natin, ibig sabihin, smaller yung unit doon sa ating base unit. So this is for converting from the base unit to smaller and larger units of length. So kasi meter. So pwede na rin siyang gawin sa mass. For example, 'di ba? For example, ang basis natin doon, 'di ba, is gram. So, for gram, kapag naglagay tayo nitong mga prefix, kapag mas malaki, for example, kilogram, or pwedeng teragram, or pwedeng decagram. Ayan. So, just refer to these prefixes para mapangalanan nyo ng tama din yung inyong unit, converted units. So, in metric system, it is easier to convert because the conversion factor is a multiple of 10 raised to a certain degree of power. So, unlike in the English system, which has no pattern or has irregular values as conversion factors. For example, in the English system, so if you want to convert inches, 1 inch to feet, or 1 yard to feet, so feet, and then 1 mile to its equivalent feet. So as you can see, so inch is smaller than feet, yard is smaller than feet, miles is smaller than feet. So if you look at the equivalence, for example, in 1 feet, there is 12 inches. Or in 1 inches, dito na lang natin sulat, in 1 inch rather, there is 1/12 feet. So in 1 yard, there is about 3 feet. And in 1 mile, there is 5,280, so if I'm not mistaken, feet. So as you can see, there is no pattern. So there are irregular patterns to the equivalence between smaller and larger units of the same physical quantity. So in this case, this is a measure of length. Ayan, diba? So there is no pattern in the conversion factor or in the equivalence of smaller and larger physical quantity units of the same physical quantities for English system. So unlike here, that you just need to recall that you need to multiply it by 10 raised to a certain degree. So multiples of 10 ang pag-convert sa metric system. So this is also the main reason why most of the countries change from using English system to metric system. Diba? Kapag nagme-measure tayo, ang goal natin is to secure accuracy and reproducibility or precision in the result of our measurement, in our experiment. So, dapat accurate yung measurement natin and as well as precise or reproducible. So, kahit saan ka pumunta sa mundo, reproducible yung result ng experiment mo. So to do that, to determine or to monitor the reproducibility, the precision of the result, mas madali nang gamitin yung the same unit of measurement na ginamit nung ibang experimenter. So how do we now convert from one unit to another unit? So what units describe are the different dimensions of the measured object. So therefore, to convert from one unit to another unit, we need to perform dimensional analysis. So dimensional analysis is a process of using units. So this is a process of using units or dimensions in solving problem. So basic application of dimensional analysis is unit conversion. So where we equate value of a certain unit to its equivalent units of the same physical quantity. So for example, we have here 9 meters. So we equate it to its equivalent value in another unit of the same physical quantity. So for example, you would like to know its equivalent value to using centimeter as a unit. So ano yung new value and how do we find this value? So to convert, we need to identify the conversion factors which can be used to eliminate and change units to your desired units. So conversion factors are numerical fraction. Yan. So these are numerical fraction or ratio between quantities which can be used as a multiplication factor for converting one units to another. So the following are the common conversion factors. So as you can see, these are the equivalents between one unit to another unit of the same physical quantity. So for example, here, this is for the different units that measures or describes length, dimension of length. So here for the dimension of mass, dimension of time, speed, force, and other quantities. So derived, maybe derived and fundamental quantities. So you can also use the table of prefixes, yung kanina, diba? So balikan natin. So you can also use this table of prefixes in your as your basis for conversion factor. So just recall or just take note of the prefix to be used, and so that the prefix, the corresponding prefix that describes this exponential factor, and of course this unit equivalent. So for example, in order to convert 1 meter to terameter, or to convert meter to terameter, the conversion or the equivalent is that, the unit equivalent is that wait lang. So the unit equivalent is that 1 terameter is equal to yan 1 billion 1 trillion yan 1 trillion meters, or to avoid this long sequence of number, it is equal to 1 times 10 raised to 12 meter. So kapag positive 12, kapag nakita mo times 10 raised to positive 12, you know that the equivalent unit is 1 terameter or terameter. So kapag, for example, ito, negative 9, you will know that it is for nanometer. So let us have some examples. So by the way, here are the steps in unit conversion. So first, you need to identify the value to be converted. So sometimes it is already given, explicitly given yung values to be converted, but other times it is in doon sa problem solving, diba? So sometimes may mga problems na convert 70 meters per second to kilometers per second. So, identify alin ba yung unit dyan na kailangan mong i-convert. So, dito, since yung second, pareho naman dito, you need also to identify yan, alin ba yung units na kailangan i-convert. So, meter to kilometer. And then, step 2 is to find the conversion factor. So, the equivalence, unit equivalence, and the conversion factors that can be used to change the unit. So, just refer to the table of prefixes and the table of the conversion factors for your for the unit equivalence and conversion factors. So step 3 is to multiply the original value to the conversion factor to eliminate and change the unit. So it is important also to know how to set up your conversion factors. So it is important to know how to set up your conversion factors. So which, for example, we have here 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. So, alin ba dyan yung ilalagay natin sa numerator, alin ba dyan ang ilalagay natin sa denominator before we multiply our original value to the conversion factor. Yes, sabi natin, di ba, conversion factor is a ratio. So, alin dito, kapag change natin siya into fraction or ratio, alin dyan yung ilalagay mo sa numerator or sa denominator para ma-eliminate natin yung original unit and convert it to a new unit. And last step is, of course, to write the equivalence. Of course, kung word problem, you need to write it in a whole sentence on how to describe that value. So, let's have some example. Okay, so suppose you would like to convert 396 meters to its equivalent value in kilometers. So how do we now find this value? So first, of course, we need to look for the conversion factor. So the unit equivalent. So since we want to convert meter to kilometer, so ano ba yung conversion factor between meter and kilometer? So we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So step 1 in converting is to write down the original value together with its units and then multiply it by the conversion factor. So ano na yung ilalagay natin sa numerator, ano yung ilalagay natin sa denominator. So if we write this as a fraction, so we know that this is 300, the same as 396 meters divided by 1. So since as we can see in this expression, meter is at the denominator, at the numerator. So to eliminate this, ilalagay natin yung meter, 1,000 meter sa ilalim, sa denominator. So we'll write 1,000 meter in the denominator. And then yung kilometer ilalagay natin sa numerator. So now we can cancel meters in our equation, in our solution. So then perform the operations. 396 times 1 divided by 1,000. So we'll have 0.396 kilometers. So 396 meter is equal to 0.396 kilometers. So ito na yung equivalent value nitong value na to kilometers. Another example. Example number 2. So suppose you would like to convert 60 miles to feet. 60 miles to feet. So 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. So step 1, so write down our original value, 60 miles, and then times. So we would like to eliminate miles, so therefore we will write 1 mile doon sa ilalim, sa denominator, and then write this value sa taas, so doon sa numerator. So this is our conversion factor now. So we can now eliminate miles from our solution and perform the operation to get the new value. So 60 times 5,280, that would give us 316,800 feet. So now we know that 60 miles is equal to 316,800 feet. So you can also write this. If you would like to express this in the correct number of significant figures, you need to count the significant figures in your original value. So here we only have one significant figure. So therefore, if we write this, express this in correct significant figures, we'll have 16 miles is equal to, so here 3. So since ang kasunod ni 3 is 1, we don't need to change this number, so just retain 3 and then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So in using correct significant figures, ito yung equivalent value ni 60 miles sa feet. Pero kung yung eksakto, we have here 316,800 feet. So as you can see, it is easier to convert in metric system because the conversion factors are in multiples of 10, so raised to a certain degree. So unlike in the English system where it has no pattern or has irregular values as conversion factor. So to compare, so for example, we would like to convert 1 meter to kilometer. So we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1 times 10 raised to 3 meter. Or if you want to convert meters to nanometer, so 1 nanometer is equal to 1 times 10 raised to negative 9 meter, or to terameter, for example, 1 terameter. So we know that 1 terameter is 1 times 10 raised to 12 meter. So you just need to remember this exponents and their corresponding prefixes. So for 12, positive 12, we know that it is for tera. Negative 9 is nano. So 3, positive 3 is kilo. So just refer to the table of prefixes for the prefixes, exponential factor, and unit equivalents. So you can also apply those not just in meter but in other metric units. Yan. So for example, pwede din kilogram or other quantities, other physical quantities. Unlike in the English system, so for example, di ba yung feet? So for example, inches to feet. So 1 inch is equal to 1 over 12 fraction of feet. So for example, another 1 yard is equal to about 3 feet. So 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. So as you can see, there are no patterns. So wala tayong makikitang common multiples na pwede natin gamitin in order to easily recall the equivalent or the conversion factor for the English system. So that is why most of the countries, sabi natin diba kanina, that most of the countries prefer using the metric system for standard measures, unit of measure. So we can also convert values from metric units to English units and vice versa. So for example, doon sa ating dito. Yan. So meron tayo diyang mga equivalents to be used as conversion factors. So between metric units and English units. For example, ito 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So inches, diba, is for English, part of English system. Ito is metric system. So feet to meters, miles to feet to kilometers, miles to feet, meters to feet. Yan. So we have here other also. So yung time, the same lang siya for English and for tawag doon, metric system. So just refer to your conversion factors table para makita nyo yung equivalence, and you can also search for other kung hindi naman kasi lahat naka-include na dito. So let us have again another example. Saan na tayo? Let's have another example. So suppose you would like to convert, so example number 3, convert 47 centimeters to its equivalent value in inches. So this is from metric, and then ko-convert natin siya into English units. So how many centimeters are there in inches? So if we look at our table, so there are 2.54 centimeter in 1 inch. So meron tayong in 1 inch, there are 2.54 centimeters. So using this equivalence, we can create the conversion factor. So again, for converting, step 1 is to write down our original value together with its unit, and then multiply it by the conversion factor. So the conversion factor, since we would like to eliminate centimeter, so we'll write 2.54 cm in the denominator and 1 inch in the numerator. So we can now cancel out centimeters and then perform the operation. So 47 times 1 divided by 2.54 will give us 18.5 inches. So since there are two significant figures in our original value, so to correctly express this one, so 47 centimeter, so di ba ito yung exact value na nakuha natin through calculation? Or wait, let me check kung yan yung exact value. 47 divided by... Yan. So meron pa siyang kasamang other decimal. So ito lang yung in-include ko sa pagsulat dito. So if we would like to express this one into correct number of significant figures, since there are two significant figures in our given, then dapat dalawa din dito. So 47 cm is equal to, so since ang kasunod niya is 5, we need to round up this number, round this up. So 19 inches. So 47 cm is equal to about 19 inches. So there are also times where we do not have direct conversion factors between units, and so we need to look at the units equivalence with other units. For example, yeah, so let's have example. For example, we would like to convert 8.65 years to its equivalent number in seconds. So we do not have, so kung titignan nyo yung table natin, wala tayong information doon telling the exact number, the exact unit equivalence between years and seconds. But we know that 1 year, yan, so 1 year is equal to 365 days. We also know that 1 day is equal to 24 hours. Diba? 24 hours. So we know that 24 hours ay 1 hour. 1 hour rather. So 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. And 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So using this information, we can now solve, or we can now convert years to second. So first, let's write down our original value, which is 8.65 years. And then, so ano yung una nating ilalagay dito? So since yung original value natin is nasa years, so look for the equivalent, unit equivalent with years. So here, ito, meron tayo ditong 1 year is equal to 365 days. So ilagay natin si years sa denominator para ma-eliminate natin siya. And then 365 days sa taas. So we can now eliminate this one. And then, so wag muna kayong mag-perform ng operation. So ilagay nyo muna lahat ng conversion factor. So next, so convert days into hours. So ayan. So 1 day sa ilalim para ma-eliminate natin siya. And then ilagay natin dito 24 hours. So na-eliminate na natin yung days. So let's now convert hours to minutes. So 1 hour ilagay natin sa ilalim. And then ilagay natin dito yung minutes, 60 minutes. And now, we need to eliminate minutes. So, we have here 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So, since nasa numerator siya, sa denominator yung minute. So, 1 minute, excuse me, is equal to 60 seconds. So, eliminate minutes. So, now, you can now perform the operation. So 8.65 times 365 times 24 times 60 times 60. This will give us the following result. So 8.65 years is equal to 272,786,400 seconds. So there are 272,786,400 seconds in 8.65 years. So if you would like to convert or to express this in correct number of significant figures, so just count again how many significant figures are there in the given. So we have here 3 significant figures. So to write down your answer in correct significant figures, so we can say that 8.65 years is equal to, so we have here 1, 2, 3. So 270. So anong kasunod ng 2? So we have here 7. So we need to round this up. So 273 million seconds. So that is the correct way of writing it. So writing it with correct number of significant figures, 273 million. So the technique here, pag madami na kayong conversion factors na ginagamit, is to write first the letters or the units before the number. So determine kung nasaan ba yung unit to be eliminated. For example, kung nasa numerator siya, then to cancel it out, you need to write the value, the conversion factor. In the conversion factor, you need to write the same value or the same unit in the denominator. Kung nasa denominator naman to, you need to write it in the numerator in order to cancel the units. So this is a simple application of dimensional analysis where we are using units of the same dimension in simple conversion. So let's have another example. So what about we want to convert 12 square meter to its equivalent value in square centimeter. So wala din tayo nitong given value doon sa natin conversion factor. But we know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. So using this information, we can now convert 12 square meter to 12 square centimeter. So write down our original value times the conversion factor. So dito, we would like to eliminate meters. So ilagay natin dito 1 meter 100 centimeter. Pero kapag in-eliminate natin siya, may matitira pang isa pang meter. So therefore, we need to write down again. So 1 meter and then 100 centimeter. So kapag ginawa natin yan, perform natin yung operation, may eliminate natin si meter dito, and then centimeter times centimeter will give us square centimeter. So multiply the value now. So 12 times 100 times 100 will give us 120,000 square centimeter. So now 12 square meter is equal to 120,000 square centimeter. So you can check for the number of correct sig figs. So yeah, so meron tayong dalawa, dito. So this is already in correct number of significant figures. So there are also problems where we need to convert only one part of the units. For example, sa mga word problem, diba? Sometimes in the derived units, you only need to convert one dimension of that specific physical quantity. So for example, in speed, so 55 kilometers per hour, for example, and then you would like to convert it into meter per second. So dito, i-convert mo siya into meter. Ito, i-convert mo siya into second. So by the way, magbigay muna tayo ng simpler example. So wait lang. So example 6. So for example, we would like to convert 10 miles per hour to kilometers per hour. So dito, pareho lang naman yung R, so we don't need to convert. But dito, we need to convert miles to kilometers. So there are problems wherein, di ba, ito lang yung kailangan mong i-convert. Only part of the whole unit yung i-convert mo into other unit. So in this type of situation, so madali lang din. So I just identify again yung conversion factor needed. So how many kilometers are there in miles? So let's look at our conversion factor. So in 1 mile, there are 1.609 kilometers. 1 mile. So 1 mile, there are 1.609 kilometers. So we can now perform the unit conversion. So 10 miles over per hour times the conversion factor. So here, since nasa numerator si miles, we need to write 1 mile in the denominator, and then 1.609 kilometers in the numerator. So we can now cancel miles and perform the operation. So we have now here 10 times 1.609 is equal to 16.09 kilometers per hour. So 10 miles per hour is equal to 16.09 kilometers per hour. So yan. So if you would like to express this again into correct number of significant figures, then you need to round this off into, para makuha mo yung isang sig fig lang dito. So 10 miles per hour is equal to, ayan, so since 6 to, i-round natin to pataas. So 20 kilometers per hour. So that is the equivalent in correct number of significant figures. Pero yung sagot exactly doon sa problem natin, ito yung exact value. Kapag renound off to correct number of significant figures, we have here 20 kilometers per hour. So let's have another example. Example number 7. So how about dalawang unit na ang i-convert natin sa isang value? So again, so ito 55 kilometers per hour, and then we would like to express it into meters per second. So yung kilometers gusto natin i-convert to meter, and then yung R we would like to convert to second. So ano na ngayon yung new value? So we need to again identify the unit equivalents for each of the units to be converted. So in 1 kilometer, there are 1,000 meters, and in 1 hour, yeah, so 1 hour, diba, meron tayong 60 minutes, and then in 1 minute, there are 60 seconds. You can also use 1 hour is equal to 3,600 seconds, so if you would like to use that, but here I'm going to demonstrate the longer method. Ayan, longer conversion. So step 1, write down our original value with its corresponding unit, kilometer per hour, times. So alin dito yung gusto mong unahin? So unahin muna natin si kilometers. Kasi kilometers, since nasa numerator siya, ilalagay natin siya sa denominator yung doon sa unit equivalence natin. So 1 kilometer, and then si meter nasa taas. So 1,000 meter. So again, mas madali kung isusulat niyo muna yung units. So identify niyo muna kung nasaan yung mga units, and then sulat niyo yung units before the number. So we can now cancel out 1 kilometer in our solution. So now we can now write the conversion factor for hours. So yung hours, 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So saan natin ilalagay si 1 hour? Since nasa denominator siya sa original unit, ilalagay natin siya dito sa numerator para mag-cancel out sila, and then si minutes sa denominator. So 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So we can now cancel minutes. But what we want here is seconds. So therefore, we need to convert minutes into seconds. So 1 minute, since nasa denominator siya dito, dapat nasa numerator siya to cancel this out. And then sa ilalim si second. So 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So cancel this out. And we can now perform the operation. So, kapag pinerform natin yung operation, so we'll get that 55 kilometers per hour is equal to 15.28 meter per second, or if expressed to correct number of significant figures, since dalawa to, so we need to round this up to 2 significant figures. So, 55 km per hour is equal to 15 meter per second. Yeah. So, here are other examples. So, nakita nyo na siya dun sa dun sa module natin. So, this is a word problem. So, here, in the 5th touchdown by Senna against Tocobari Scorpions, he ran a 40-yard dash at a speed of 8 yard per second. So, express the speed in meter per second if 1 yard is equal to 0.9144 meter. So, in some of the problems, given na yung unit equivalence. Pero in other problems, you can just refer to the conversion factor table. So, dito, ang given natin, we have here 40 yard, and then we have here speed of 8 yard per second. So, we need to convert, sabi dito, express the speed in meter per second. So, dito, panggulo lang to. So, ito yung kailangan natin. I-convert yung speed niya, which is 8 yards per second. So, you need to identify which of the values are needed to be converted. So, dito, yung 8 yards per second lang ang kailangan natin and express it to meters per second. So, ang conversion factor natin, 1 yard is equivalent to 0.9144 meter. So, ilalagay natin si meter sa numerator and si yard sa denominator para ma-eliminate natin yung yard. And then perform the operation so that you get this value. So if we need to express this in correct sig fig, then 8 yard per second is equal to 7 meter per second. So using correct significant figures. So example, another example. So Limonsudan waterfalls in Iligan City is the highest two-tiered waterfall in the Philippines. So with a combined drop of 270 meters. So express this drop in feet. So how many feet are there in meters? So we have 3.281 feet is equal to 1 meter. So since ang given natin is meter, kailangan natin i-eliminate si meter. So ilalagay natin ngayon si 1 meter sa denominator para mag-eliminate and multiply it with our with 3.281 feet. So, you'll get 885.86 feet. So, kung express naman natin siya with correct significant figures, dapat 885.9 feet. Kasi apat to. So, we need to express it with correct number of significant figure. So, let us proceed to our concept builder. Express the following units in the desired unit of measure. So, number 1, express the speed limit of 65 miles per hour in terms of meters per second. So, we need to convert this unit into this unit. And number 2, an athlete maintains his body mass index or BMI to normal. So, his mass measures 75 kg and has a height of 1.85 meters. So, if BMI is defined by the equation below, find the body mass index of the athlete in pounds per squared inches. So, did he maintain a normal body mass index? So, yung normal body mass index natin, ito yung formula niya. So, BMI is equal to weight divided by squared height. Squared of height. Sa sports science, yung weight, mini-measure nila in terms of kilograms. So, that's why yung standard measure or unit ni BMI is kilograms per square meter. So, to answer this part, just refer to this table. So let's answer now number 1. So by the way, before you proceed to the next part of this video, sa answer part, you may pause this video and just resume watching after submitting your answers to the given Padlet link. So number 1, so first we need to identify the value to be converted. So here, we need to convert 65 miles per hour into meters per second. So we need to find the equivalent value in terms of this unit. So we want to convert miles to meters and then hours to seconds. So step 2 is to find the conversion factor. So ano yung conversion factor natin? We need to look into the unit equivalent. So in 1 mile, there are 1,609.34 meters, and in 1 hour, there are 3,600 seconds. But conversion factor is a ratio or a fraction. So therefore, to find the conversion factor, we need to base it to the given value. So para malaman natin kung sino yung isusulat natin sa numerator, sino yung isusulat natin sa denominator. So since in our given value 65 miles per hour, so we want to eliminate miles, so therefore we're going to write miles at the denominator of our conversion factor. So ito ang conversion factor natin. And sa kabila naman, yung isa nating conversion factor, we need to write, so R pala to. So we need to write R's at the numerator of our conversion factor because in the original value, nasa denominator siya. So kapag sinulat natin dito, we know that we can eliminate those units. So solution, 65 miles per hour times 1,609.34 meters divided by 1 mile. So dito, ma-eliminate na natin si miles times the second conversion factor, 1 hour over 3,600 seconds. So dito, we will be able to cancel out this one. So R. So matitira na lang si meter per second. So just perform the operation. So we will get 29 meters per second. So ang final answer natin will be 65 miles per hour is equal to 29 miles per second. So take note also of the significant figures, number of significant figures. So original, meron tayong 2 significant figures. Then, doon sa converted value natin, dapat 2 significant figures din. So, for number 2, so we would like to solve for the body mass of the athlete. So, BMI is measured or described by kilograms per squared meter. So, ito yung standard unit niya. And we would like to know the equivalent value of the BMI of this athlete into its equivalent value in pounds per squared inches. And additional, gusto rin natin malaman kung normal ba yung BMI nung athlete natin. So again, yung formula for BMI is equal to weight divided by the height. So sa sports science, height squared, yung weight is described by kilogram. Diba? Dinidescribe natin yung sarili natin, weight natin sa totoong buhay in kilograms. But in reality, in physics, it is mass, yung kilogram. So yan. So first step is to identify the given. We have here the mass, 75 kilograms, and the height is 1.85 meters. And identify the conversion factor. So we have 2.205 pounds in 1 kilogram. And since we want to convert squared meter into squared inch, wala tayo ditong we don't have direct conversion factor between meters to inches. So therefore, we need to convert this into feet. So i-convert muna natin siya sa feet, and then from feet we will convert it into inches. So dadaan muna siya dito bago tayo mag-convert into inches. So again, sa mga ganitong problem, sa mga word problem, you need to solve first for the problem before conversion. So dapat hanapin nyo muna, for example, pinapahanap si BMI, solve first for the BMI, and then followed by the conversion of the value. Kung pinapahanap si force, acceleration, speed, solve first for those needed quantity before you do the conversion. So for the solution, ayan. So hanapin natin si BMI using itong formula. So 75 kilogram divided by 1.85 meters squared. So, yung magiging sagot natin dyan, class, is 22 kilograms per squared meter. So, nakasulat na siya sa correct number of significant figures because in our given, the least number of significant figures is 2. So, andyan, diba? Dalawa lang. So, just refer to the rules of multiplying numbers in correct number of significant figures. So, now that we have the value for the BMI, we can now convert this into its equivalent value in pounds per squared inches. So again, in converting, write first the original value. So we have here 22 kilogram per squared meter times. So now, alin dito yung isusulat natin sa itaas? So dito yung first conversion factor natin. So alin yung isusulat natin? So since nasa numerator si kilogram, so we are going to write 1 kilogram at the denominator of our conversion factor. And then yung pounds, we will write it in our numerator. Ayan. And then, multiply again. So, dalawa dito. Yung meter natin dito is dalawa. So, kung ifa-factor out natin to, this is meter times meter. So, we need to cancel out these 2 meters para ma-convert natin siya. Cancel meters and then convert it into feet. So therefore, since dalawang meters dito, dalawang beses din tayo magmumultiply sa conversion factor natin. So since nasa denominator siya, ilalagay natin si meter sa numerator and then feet at the denominator. And then again, 1 meter over 3.281 feet. So now we can cancel out meters and another meter. So dito, cancel out na din tong kilogram. And then, what we want to do is to convert meter into inches or squared meter into squared inches. So therefore, from feet, we need to convert it or multiply it to the conversion factor of feet and inches. So there are, in 1 feet, since nasa denominator siya, ilalagay natin siya sa numerator. There are 12 inches. So, maka-cancel out na natin yung isang feet dito. And then, multiply again para mawala na din itong isa pang feet dito. So, in 1 feet, again, there are 12 inches. So, maka-cancel out na natin yung feet at ang matitira na lang si inches. So, inches. So, inch times inch is squared inch. So, yung final answer na natin ngayon is that 22 kilogram per squared meter is equal to 0.0312914 pounds per squared inches. However, since doon sa original value natin, meron lang tayong 2 significant figures, we need to express this also into 2 significant figures. So, ang magiging final answer natin dyan is that 22 kilograms per squared meter is equal to 0.031 pounds per squared inches. So, in expressing values in correct number of significant figures, you need to recall how to round off numbers. For example, ito yung hanggang 31 lang tayo. So, you need to round this number off. So pagkatapos ni 1, meron tayong 2. So, since 2, mababa siya sa 5, just retain 1. So, meron na tayo dito. Ito na yung final answer natin. So, may additional question dito, which is, did the athlete maintain a normal BMI? So, to answer this, we need to refer to the table. So, again, yung ginagamit na BMI, standard unit is kilogram per squared meter. So, ang gagamitin natin to determine whether the BMI is normal is this one. So, balik tayo dun sa slide kung nasaan yung table natin. So, here is our table. So, sabi natin, yung calculated value natin ng BMI is 22 kg per squared meter. So, kung titignan natin, dito siya papasok sa 18.5 to 24.9. Yung katapat niya, evaluation natin is, yung BMI niya is normal. So, therefore, the athlete maintained his normal body mass index. So, we saw in our previous examples how units can be used to solve a problem or how units can be converted to other units. So, the process of using units and dimensions in solving problem is called dimensional analysis. So, for example, so dito, so since we know the dimensions of BMI or the unit of BMI, we were able to define how the formula for BMI. So kanina nakalimutan kong isulat dito yung formula ng BMI. But since I know that the units that define or describe BMI is kilogram per squared meter, alam ko na kailangan ko ng mass, some property that can be described using kilogram, and a property that can be described by meters. And then, dito sa given problem natin, nakalagay naman dito, yung mass is equal to 75 kg, and we have here also the height, which is, yan, so 1.85 meters. So, therefore, kailangan ko lang isulat ilagay yung mass sa taas. So, yan, kilogram is a measure of mass, and then meter is a measure of height. So, unit that describes height. And then, since squared dito, kailangan kong squared yung height dito. So, therefore, yun yung nakuha natin na solution to get the value of BMI. So, again, ayan, dimensional analysis is a process of using units and dimensions in solving problems. And to define dimension is any physical property that can be observed or measured. So, since ito yung definition niya, so in a sense, dimension is synonymous or basically just the physical property. So, since there are 7 fundamental properties or fundamental quantities, there are also 7 fundamental dimension, or they called it 7 primary dimensions. And here are those 7 primary dimensions. So we have here the length, the mass, the time, temperature, electric current, luminous intensity, amount of substance. So kapag nagre-refer tayo sa dimensions, ito yung nakikita natin. Itong 7 dimensions, fundamental dimensions. And these 7 fundamental dimensions is used to describe different physical properties. So, yung corresponding symbol, yung length, ito yung gagamitin natin, capital letter L. For the mass, capital letter M. For time, capital letter T. For temperature, yung small letter Q na lang ang gamitin. And then, electric current, kung meron man, I, capital letter I. Luminous intensity, capital letter C. And for amount of substance, letter N, capital letter N. So, some of the physical common physical properties with its dimensions are the following. So, since madami tayo ditong problem sa physics, general physics 1 na nag-involve nito, so ito yung ilalagay natin dito. For most common physical properties, we have the position, the speed, the time, and the acceleration. And here are the symbols of this one. Kapag nasa equation, ito yung nakikita ninyo, x, v, t, and a. And the units that describe these properties are, so yan, for position, we have meters. So, we know that meters is a measure of length. So, that's why ang dimension ng position is length. So, yung dimension naman is speed. So, speed is defined as distance divided by time. So, therefore, meron tayong meter per second as the standard unit. And meter is a measure of length. And second is a measure of time. So, second, again, is a measure of time, for time. And for acceleration, ayan, meter per second squared. So, we have here length divided by t squared. Time is squared. So, it is important to learn dimensional analysis because it helps us to solve for unknown dimensions of physical quantities or properties and check whether equations are dimensionally correct. So, for example, hanap lang tayo ng example. So, for example, so we define speed as distance divided by the time. So, yan. So, the standard unit of speed is meter per second. So, since this is the standard of unit of speed, so therefore, d must be something, distance must be something that can be measured using meter, and time must be something that can be measured using seconds. So however, there are cases na hindi naman meter per second yung speed natin, hindi naman siya measured in terms of this one. So sa totoong buhay, di ba, mas ginagamit natin yung kilometers per hour sa mga sasakyan, for example. So gaano kabilis yung sasakyan, so we describe it using kilometers per hour, or sometimes miles per hour. So paano natin malalaman na tama yung dimension nito, that this unit also describes speed? So this unit also describe speed. So paano natin malalaman that we can also use this unit to describe speed? So in these cases, instead of using unit to check whether something is dimensionally correct, we can use the dimension mismo. So speed, sabi natin, ang dimension is speed. So ang meter is a measure of length, second is a measure of time. So yan yung dimension is speed, di ba? So yung kilometer ba, for example dito, for kilometers, tanggalin muna natin. So ang dimension is speed is length divided by time. So ang standard unit niya is meter per second, di ba? So yan. So paano natin malalaman kung si kilometer per hour can describe, is a correct description, unit for speed? So yung kilometer ba, is it a measure of length? So di ba, kilometer is a measure of length. So yung hour is also a measure of time. So therefore, kung titignan natin, kilometers per hour, yung dimension niya is length, also length divided by time. And comparing it to the dimension of speed, pareho sila. So therefore, so this unit, kapag may given kang kilometer at may given kang hours doon sa problem mo, it can be used to solve for the speed of your moving object. So the same with miles per hour. So miles is a measure of length and hour is a measure of time. So therefore, alam natin na tama yung solution natin doon sa problem, that our equation is dimensionally correct. So another would be the equation of force. So where force is defined as mass times acceleration. So alam natin na ang unit ng force, so di ba sabi natin Newton ang unit ng force, but kung i-expand natin itong Newton, alam natin that Newton is just kilogram times meter per second squared. So dapat dun sa solution natin, meron tayo doon ng mga properties. Yung units na nandoon is the same as the units nung ating force. So meron tayo ditong mass. So mass is described using kilogram, and then acceleration is described by meter per second squared. So therefore, if we get the product of these two, makukuha natin yung unit ng force. So kung gusto mo pang maging mas sigurado, so i-convert mo siya or isulat mo siya in terms of the dimensions included. So kilogram is a measure of mass, meter is a measure of length, second is a measure of time, and since this is squared, so t squared din to. So dun sa kabila, dapat meron din tayong measure of mass, meron tayong measure of length divided by the measure of time squared, so which is this one. So take note class na kung ano yung arrangement nung nandun sa kabila, dapat yun din yung arrangement nung nasa kabilang side ng equation ninyo. So kung ito, for example, naging siyang meter and then t squared over L, hindi na siya dimensionally correct kasi you divided time squared by the length instead of dividing the length by the time squared. So hindi na rin siya tawag dyan, pareho. Hindi na rin siya dimensionally correct kasi kahit nandyan yung lahat ng dimensions na hinahanap mo, magkaiba naman yung way ng pagkuha mo, pag-solve mo. So ayan yung ginamit mo, divide t squared with length. So iba rin yung makukuha mo dyan na value. So dapat kung ano yung arrangement dito, yun din yung arrangement dito. At kung ano yung mga dimensions na andito sa kabila, dapat present din siya dun sa kabilang side. para masabi natin na dimensionally correct yung equation ninyo. So let us have a concept builder. So again, you may pause this video and then just resume watching after you submitted your answers in the given Padlet link. So state yes if the statement is correct and no if not. So number 1, so is it possible for two quantities to have the same dimensions but different units? So is it yes or a no? So number 2, is it possible for two quantities to have the same units but different dimensions? Number 3, you can always add two numbers with the same units, such as 6 centimeters plus 3 centimeters. So can you always add two numbers that contains the same dimensions, such as two numbers with length as dimensions? So is it yes or no? Okay, so to answer this question, number 1, so is it possible for two quantities to have the same dimension but different units? So ang sagot dito is, asan na yun? Okay, so ang sagot dito is yes. So posible na yung two quantities have the same dimensions but different units. So for example, sabi natin kanina, yung speed natin, di ba? Pwedeng measured siya in terms of meter per second and miles per hour. So they have the same dimension. So yung meter per second have length over time. Ayan. Yung miles per hour naman natin, meron din tayong length over time. Pero kung makikita natin, yung unit description niya is magkaiba. Kasi yung isa in terms of meter per second, yung isa in terms of miles per hour. So therefore, it is possible for two quantities to have the same dimensions but different units. So number 2, is it possible for two quantities to have the same units but different dimensions? So ang answer dito is no. So kung tawag dyan, kung the same yung units niya, dapat magkapareho din yung dimensions. Kasi kung magkaiba yung dimension, kung same units tas magkaiba yung dimension, di may mali sa solution mo or mali yung pagkakasulat mo, expression mo ng dimension. So number 3, so you can always add two numbers with the same units, such as 6 centimeters plus 3 centimeters. So can you always add two numbers that contains the same dimensions, such as two numbers with length as dimensions? So is it yes or no? So the correct answer here is no. So katulad dito sa example natin sa speed. For example, gusto natin i-add yung dalawang speed. So speed plus speed. So dito, yung speed natin is ginawa natin na 2 length over time. Yan yung dimension. And then meron pa tayong another 3 and then length over time din yung dimension niya. So can we add these two? Of course, hindi natin pwedeng ma-add kasi hindi naman natin alam kung magkapareho yung unit na nagdi-describe sa kanila. So pwede tayong mag-add ng numbers with the same units pero yung hindi tayo makakapag-add palagi ng dimensions, ng numbers with the same dimensions. Kasi nga, 'di ba? Yun na nga. So yung unit baka nitong isa is meters per second, yung isa baka miles per hour yung unit niya. So the answer here is no. Okay, so let's just have another concept builder. So you may pause this video and then resume watching after you submitted your answers in the given Padlet link. So concept builder 4. Write dimensionally correct if the units on both sides of the equal sign is consistent with each other, and dimensionally incorrect if not. For number 1, we have here x is equal to v times t. So paano natin yan sasagutan? So let us see the dimensions, the units of this equation. So we have here x is equal to v times t. So where this is the position, this is for the speed or the velocity, this is time. So we know that the standard unit for position is meter. For velocity or for the speed, we have meter per second, and for time, we have second. So if we perform this operation, So these units will cancel out. So makikita natin na meter is equal to meter. So kung gagamitin naman natin yung dimension, so meter is a describes dimension of length. So another dito, meron tayong another meter. Second describes the dimension of time. And we also have here another dimension of time. So if we perform the operation algebraically, so this will cancel out. So the dimension left are length, so in both sides. So since pareho silang dimension of length, so we can say that this equation is dimensionally correct. So ibig sabihin, we can use this equation, we can use this formula to solve for the value of x, or to solve for the value of position. So number 1 is dimensionally correct. So how about number 2? So x is equal to v times t plus 1/2 at squared. So how do we now solve this one? So for number 2, we have here x is equal to v times t plus 1/2 at squared. So again, kunin natin yung units. So this is position, so meter. We have here velocity, which is meter per second times second, plus sa dimensional analysis, we do not include the coefficient in solving. So just the units of the variable, the units of the numbers or the dimension alone. So dito we have here a, which is acceleration. Ang unit niya is meter per second squared, and then time is second, wherein we get its squared. So kapag in-squared mo to, this is just the same as s squared. So kung sa kung sa dimension, ayan, so length, we have here another length. Lahat ng meter is a unit of length. So lahat ng second is a unit of time. So we have here another time plus length over time squared, and we have here time then squared. So kapag nag-perform ulit tayo ng operation, ma-cancel out natin to. So the same in this one. So we can use units in dimensional analysis, or we can also use the dimensions in order to check whether an equation or a formula is dimensionally correct. So since ang matitira dito is length, and then another length dito plus length, so alam naman natin na kapag nag-add tayo ng something that has the same for example, the same unit, ang kakalabasan is pareho. So this is just length is equal to length. So although kanina sinabi natin na we cannot always add numbers with the same dimension, pwede natin siyang gawin dito because given naman na kapag nasa equation ka, pare-pareho yung unit na ginagamit mo. So to describe something. So since sa kabilang side meron tayong length, sa kabilang side length lang din yung andoon. So ibig sabihin, this equation is dimensionally correct, and we can use this to solve for the value of the position, or we can also derive from this equation to solve for the value of any variable here that is missing. Okay, so number 2 is dimensionally correct. Okay, so number 3 is also dimensionally correct. Kasi kapag titignan natin yung equation niya, so we have v is equal to 80 squared. So v is a measure of, yung unit ng velocity is meter per second. So we have here meter per second squared for the acceleration, and second for time. So if we perform the operation, we have here meter per second is equal to meter per second. So this is a unit of length, and this is a unit of time. So sa kabila naman, this is a unit of length, this is also a unit of time. So since magkapareho yung dimension sa magkabilaang side ng equal sign, so this equation is dimensionally correct. So how about for number 4? So we have here v raised to 3 is equal to 2ax squared. So, paano natin siya isosolve? So, again, we have here v cubed is equal to 2ax squared. So, ang unit ni v is meter over second or meter per second, and then naka-cube siya. Is equal to, so we do not include this 2, so just the units of the value. So, kapag kinuha natin yung units, the acceleration is meter per second squared, and then multiplied natin siya sa x is a position, so ang unit niya is meter, yan, and then naka-square siya. So, kung titignan natin yung ano natin dito, we have here meter, cubic meter, and then second, cube ng second, and then equal to, so meter times square meter, so we have here cubic meter over second squared. So, kung titignan natin dito, yung dimensions niya, we have here length, and then naka-cube siya, and then dito naman time, which is also raised to 3. Sa kabila naman, yung length natin is raised to 3. Sa ilalim naman, yung time natin is raised to 2. So, makikita natin dito, magkaiba. So, yung sa ilalim, si time dito raised to 3, yung sa kabila raised to 2. So, since magkaiba sila, kahit na lahat ng dimensions ay present, so meron tayong length, meron tayong time sa kabila, merong length dito, merong time. Since magkaiba yung power nitong time sa ilalim, ibig sabihin, this equation is not dimensionally correct. So, this is dimensionally incorrect. So, we cannot use this equation to solve for the value of velocity or to solve for any of the value in this equation. Okay, so last item. So, number 4 is dimensionally incorrect. So, number 5. So, t is equal to the square root of 2x over a. So, let us see the solution. So, letter t. So, okay. So, letter t. So, time is equal to the square root of, ano yung andoon? Square root of 2x over a. Square root of 2x over a. So, time is second. So, we have here position which is meter, and then square root siya, and then acceleration is meter per second squared. So, kung titignan natin to, di ba kapag nagdi-divide tayo, kinukuha natin yung reciprocal and then just multiply. So, ibig sabihin, this is equal to s. So, i-rewrite lang natin, class. We have here time is equal to 2x over a. So, again, we have your second, and then the square root of meter over meter per second squared. So, ito, we can also write this as square root of meter times second squared over meter. So, ibig sabihin, magka-cancel out si meter dito. So, ang matitira na lang dito, s is equal to second squared. So, square root of second squared. So, second is equal to second. So, this is dimension of unit of time, and this is also a unit of time. So, since pareho yung sa magkabilaan, so therefore, this equation is dimensionally correct. So, this is dimensionally correct. So, we can use this equation to solve for the value of time. So, ito lang yung dimensionally incorrect dito sa given natin. Sorry, yan. So, as you can see, so we can use dimensional analysis to check whether our equation, our formula, can be used to solve for the variable. So, for the physical value of the physical property. So, for example, ito, pwede natin itong gamitin na equation para makuha natin si value ni x. The same with this one. So, also, ito din. So, pwede natin siyang makuha yung variable nito, ay yung value ni velocity using acceleration and time. Kasi kapag nag-perform tayo ng operation, magka-cancel out yung units at ang matitira na lang is the unit of velocity. And the dimensions are consistent to each other sa magkabilaan side ng equation. So a lot of times in physics, you will be dealing with extremely large or extremely small numbers. For example, the mass of a subatomic particle. So this is extremely small numbers. And another example would be a distance between the Earth and a star, for example, from another galaxy, from a distant galaxy. So in these cases where we have extremely small or extremely large numbers, there is a way on how to express our value so that we would avoid writing a very long sequence of numbers. For example, if we have this very long sequence of number, diba? So ang daming zero, tapos yung significant figure natin ay andito pa sa dulo. So how can we express this in such a way na hindi na natin to isusulat? Ito na, magsimula na tayo dito sa significant value natin. So in science, it is important to familiarize how to write or convert number into its scientific notations, because scientific notations is a convenient way of expressing large and small numbers into a simpler manner. So it also facilitates comparisons and computations made during measurements. So how do we now write a number into its scientific notations? So scientific notation makes use of a short sequence of number multiplied to some power of 10 raised to a certain degree. So it is expressed using the following form. So you have your n times 10 raised to n. So where the capital letter N is any number greater than or equal to 1 but is less than 10. So yeah, greater than or equal to 1 but is less than 10. And the small letter n denotes the magnitude, the order of magnitude, or the degree of exponent. So ibig sabihin nito, class, for example, we have here a value. So for example, 3.9 times 10 raised to 7. So how do we now know that this number here pasok siya dun sa ating definition or description, where sabi natin n, kasi sabi natin, di ba, ang form nito must be n times 10 raised to a certain exponent. So itong value na to, this is our n. So sabi natin, yung n natin dapat greater than or equal to 1, pero dapat less than 10. So 3.9, so it is clear that 3.9 is greater than 1, and 3.9 is also less than 10. So therefore, kapag mag-change tayo ng number into its scientific notation, there is only one. Dapat isa lang yung significant digit na nandoon sa left side ng decimal natin. So, dito yung decimal natin, isang number lang, isang digit lang ang andito sa left side. And the rest of the significant numbers in your value must be written to the right of your decimal. So, for example, if we have here 793 million. Ayan. 793 million. If we would like to express it into scientific notation, so kung andito yung decimal natin, dapat mailagay natin siya dito. Kasi, gagawin natin siyang number that is greater than 1 but less than 10. So, magagawa lang natin siya dito, magagawa lang natin siyang pasok dito sa description na to kung magtitira tayo ng isa lang na digit to the left of our decimal. So, galing dito yung decimal, i-move natin siya papunta doon sa point na yun. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So, from here, original place of our decimal, nilagay natin dito. So, now, our number is 7.93. So, ito yung significant digit natin, diba? So, all the other significant digit must be written to the right of your decimal place. So, yung sa left side ng decimal place natin, isang digit lang ng significant numbers mo. So, therefore, kapag sinulat natin siya into scientific notation, magiging siyang 7.93 times 10 raised to a certain degree. So, paano natin malalaman yung value ng n dito? So, you need to count how many times you moved the decimal places hanggang sa ma-reach mo itong point to. So, dito, di ba? So, nagbilang tayo kanina. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. So, we move the decimal places 8 times to the left. So, nilagay natin siya dun 8 times. So, therefore, ang exponent natin is 8. So, ngayon, yung exponent dito can be positive or negative. So, paano ngayon natin malalaman kung positive or negative yung exponent? So, if a number, if the original value or original number is greater than 1, the exponent is positive. Ayan. Kapag naman yung original value is less than 1, the exponent is negative. So, kanina meron tayong 796 ba yun? Million. So, greater than 1 ba siya? Yan yung original value natin kanina. So, is this number greater than 1? So, it is obvious na mas malaki siya sa 1. So, therefore, kapag sinulat natin siya into its scientific notation, yung dito, diba, 8. So, yung exponent natin dito is negative. So, masasabi lang natin na positive. So, masasabi lang natin na negative siya kapag yung value ng original value natin dito is less than 1. So, for example, 0.000031, and then we move these decimal places papunta dito sa kabila. So, kapag in-express natin siya into scientific notation, so, move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So, 5 times to the right, negative yung exponent niya because 0.000031, this number is less than 1. The original number is less than 1. Excuse me. So, kapag less than 1 ang value, you move the decimal places to the right para makuha mo yung scientific notation ng isang number. Kapag ang original value is greater than 1, you move the decimal places to the left side of your number. So, let's have more examples. So, let us convert this value into its scientific notation. So, we have here 158,000 kilometers. So, to convert this into its equivalent scientific notation, so we need to move the decimal to the left side of this number. So, 158, kasi di ba 158 is greater than 1. So, therefore, kung greater than 1, i-move natin yung decimal places to the left side of the number. So, galing dito, magbibilang ka hanggang sa ma-reach mo yung point na to, hanggang may matitira ka na lang dito na isang significant digit. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the left. So, ang value natin, ito lang yung significant numbers, diba? So, yan lang yung isusulat mo, 1.58 times 10 raised to 5. And don't forget to include also the units. Another example, number 2. So, 0.00001 0.09782 liters. So let's convert this into its equivalent scientific notation. So 0.000097982 liters is less than, this is less than 1. So therefore, para ma-convert natin siya into its scientific notation, we moved our decimal place to the right of our number hanggang sa makapaglagay tayo ng isang significant digit to the left of our decimal point. So we moved it, so i-rewrite lang natin. So from this point, we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So ito, meron na tayong isang digit sa left side ng decimal. So isulat na natin siya, 9.782 times 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times tayo nag-move, raised to 6, and this is negative. Kasi yung original value natin is less than 1. And don't also forget to write the unit. So what if we want to write the scientific notation back to its original value or back to a standard number? So how do we now convert a scientific notation from scientific notation back to its original value, original number, or standard number? So let us have some examples on how do we write the scientific notation back to its original number. So number 1, for example, we would like to convert 7.20 times 10 raised to negative 7. So first, we need to look at the exponent. So by looking at the exponent, we will be able to tell whether the original number is greater than, must be greater than, or must be less than. Dapat ba greater than siya sa 1 or less than 1 siya? Kasi kung greater than siya sa 1, dapat i-move natin yung decimal places to the right. Pero kung less than 1 siya, i-move natin siya to the left. So since we have here a negative exponent, yung original number must be less than 1. So must be less than 1. So we need to move this decimal place to the left. Kasi kanina, diba, dun sa previous example natin, nung nag-convert tayo from original value, for example, ito, 0.0031, for example, from this value, for example, mas maliit siya sa 1, diba? So kapag kinonvert natin siya ito scientific notation, ang ginagawa natin kapag ang value is less than 1, to convert it to scientific notation, we move it to the left. So we move the decimal place to the left. Now, if the value is if the scientific notation, or if the scientific notation has negative exponent, so this original value must be less than 1. So kapag ibabalik natin siya back to its original value, so ang gagawin natin, we're moving this to the left side. The decimal place must be moved to the left side. So times the n exponent. So dito, so 7.20 times 10 raised to negative 7. So meron tayo ditong 7, dito ko na isulat, 0.20. So andito yung decimal, dapat mag-move tayo 7 times papunta sa left side para maibalik siya dun sa original number niya. So from here, we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So andito dapat yung decimal place niya. So meron na tayo dyan 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we moved our decimal place 7 times to the left. So kapag ang exponent mo is negative, to convert it back to its original number, you need to move the decimal places to the left side of the number. So, for example, mas malaki siya for example sa 1. So, for example, sa number 2, 7.20 times 10 raised to 7. So, the exponent now here is positive. So, therefore, since dun sa pag-convert natin, for example, 31,000. Yeah, for example, 31,000. To convert this into scientific notation, di ba? So, we need to move the decimal places to the left. So, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, yan yung ginagawa natin. So, para maibalik naman natin siya, so, di ba, kapag move natin siya dyan, magiging siyang 3.1 times 10 raised to positive 4. So, para maibalik natin siya into its original value, para maibalik natin sa 31,000, ang gagawin natin is just the reverse. So, kung nag-move tayo 4 times to the left, mag-move din tayo 4 times to the right para ma-convert natin siya back to its original value. So, here, if we have here 7.20 and the exponent of your multiples of 10 is positive 7, then from this point, we need to move this to the right side 7 times. So, from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, andito na yung decimal places mo. So, we have here 0, 0, 0, 0, and another 0. So, bilangin natin. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, ito yung original value natin, which is 72 million. So, kapag in-express mo siya into scientific notation, ito yung scientific notation niya. So, for example, yan. So, sagutan nyo itong dalawa. So, try nyo itong i-convert back to its original value. So, we have your 4.9 times 10 raised to 12. And then, yung isa naman, so dito na lang natin isulat. Number 4, convert this back into its original value. 6.23 times 10 raised to negative 9. So, you may pause this video and try to answer this problem. Okay? So, dito, sa una, so, isulat ko muna. Ito munang 3. So, 4.9 times 10 raised to 12. So, since positive yung exponent natin, so this must be greater than 1. So, mas malaki pa siya sa 1 yung original value natin. So, if we write this down back to its original value, so from 4.9, we need to move this decimal 12 times to the right. Kasi positive yung exponent natin dito. So, move natin. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So, andito yung decimal place natin. So, lagay na natin yung mga zeros. So, yung original value nito is magkano ba? Yan. So, 4 trillion 900 million kasi meron siyang 12 dito, diba? So, ito yung original value niya. So, 4 billion 900 billion. Yan, 900 billion. Yan. That is the original value of this exponential expression. So, nakikita nyo naman kung bakit kailangan natin, bakit sinasabi nila na convenient way of writing a number yung scientific notation, because we'll be able to avoid writing too much zeros or too much number in our original number. So, for number 4, 6.23 times 10 raised to negative 9. So, since this is negative, so this number must be less than 1. So, yung original value nito is less than 1. So, from 6.23, Sabi natin, di ba, kapag negative ang exponent, to convert it back to its original value, we need to move the decimal places to the left side. So, kung ilang yung value dito ng exponent niya. So, we move this decimal place 9 times to the left. So, move natin. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, andito yung decimal niya. So, lagyan na natin 0. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and pang 9 yung 6. So, therefore, ito yung original value niya. So, 0.00000000623. Yan yung original value niya. Tapos, ito yung scientific notation niya. Okay, so how about this one? Wait lang. So how about this one? How do we convert this or write this in a proper scientific notation? Wait lang. So 435.3 times 10 raised to 2. So clearly, mali yung pagkakasulat niya ng scientific notation kasi this number is greater than, so this n is greater than 10. So sabi natin, di ba, yung n sa ating scientific notation, yung n times 10 raised to a certain degree, yung n sa ating scientific notation must be greater than or equal to 1, pero dapat less than 10 siya. So therefore, mali itong pagkaka-express nito sa scientific notation. So how do we now express 435.3 times 10 raised to 2 into a correct way of writing scientific notation? So step number 1, so yan, 435.3 times 10 raised to 2. So first step is to convert this or express this to its original number. So i-apply natin yung natutunan natin kanina. So how do we express this into its original number? So look at the exponent. So positive to. So therefore, from this decimal place, mag-move tayo to the right side para ma-convert natin siya back to its original value. So step 1, kapag mali yung way of expressing the scientific notation, step 1 is convert back to original value. So from 435.3 raised to times 10 raised to negative 2. So since 2 times siya, since raised to 2 siya, and this is positive, we need to move this decimal place to the right side para makuha natin yung original value. So we move this 1 and 2 times. So ibig sabihin ito yung original value niya. So this is 43,530. So now to write this down back to its scientific notation, just do the steps I showed you a while ago. So convert to scientific notation. So i-apply nyo na yung kung paano ba tayo nagko-convert ng scientific notation. So from 43530, sabi natin dapat yung n natin must be greater than or equal to 1 pero less than 10. So from this point, mag-move tayo 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the left para makuha natin yung correct scientific notation expression nito. So dito 4.353 kasi hanggang dito yung significant digit natin, hanggang dito sa 3. So 4.353 times 10 raised to 1, 2, 3, and 4 raised to 4. So ito yung correct way of writing this number into scientific notation. So hindi ito, mali itong isa, ito yung tama. So, concept builder. Wait lang. Ayan. So, ito pala, another examples for the speed of light. So, nakikita natin, diba, sa mga libro, instead of writing 300 million meter per second, ang ginagamit nila is 3 times 10 raised to 8 meter per second, or yung isa, yung 2.99 times 10 raised to 8 meter per second. For the mass of a strand of hair, so gaano ba kabigat ang isang strand of hair? So, dito, sabi niya, 0.0000062 kilogram. Or if we write it down into scientific notation, ganito siya. So, 6.2 times 10 raised to negative 7 kilogram. So, sabi din natin dito sa definition ng scientific notation, it is a convenient way of comparing measurements with other measurements. So, mas madali na yung pag-compare ng value because, for example, yung original number is composed of a very long sequence of number, katulad nitong iba, katulad itong dalawang number na to. So, diba, mas mahirap na bilangin mo pa yung mga zero dito kung gaano sila karami. At kung sino mas madaming zero, of course, mas malaki siya compared to the other value. So, kung titignan mo dito, kapag kinonvert mo siya into its corresponding scientific notation, so titignan mo lang kung alin sa kanilang may mas taas dyan na exponent. Kung mas malaki yung exponent niya, ibig sabihin greater than siya dun sa isang number. So, concept builder. So, write the following quantities in their scientific notation. So, yan. So, 158 kilometers into its corresponding scientific notation. And, i-add ko na rin dito. Oh, sorry. Kita nyo na yung sagot. So, i-add ko na rin dito yung itong ibang values. So, 6, number 6, number 7, number 8. So, convert this back to original number. Itong number 4, 4.352 times 10 raised to 14, 8.9903 times 10 raised to negative 20, and 87.2 times 10 raised to 2. So, ito, convert nyo to into scientific notation. Ito, convert this back to its original number. Okay, so you may pause this video and then just resume watching para makita nyo yung sagot. Okay, so, for number 1, so, the correct answer here is, ayan, so 1.58 times 10 raised to 5. Kasi from this value, i-move natin yung number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the left. So, positive yung exponent and this is the number natin. So, for number 2, i-move natin yung decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to the right. So, ang sagot dito would be 6.782 times 10 raised to negative 6 liters. So, number 3 naman, we have here a value that is greater than 1. So, therefore, i-move natin siya to the left, yung decimal. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, we move it 8 times to the left. So, therefore, yung correct answer dito is 8.371 times 10 raised to 8 cubic meter. So, number 4 naman, so, this is less than 1. So, we move the decimal place so to the right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to the right. So, ito yung value niya. So, 8.004 times 10 raised to negative 6 grams per liter. So, take note class, na linalagay natin sa dito, sa value na to, yung lahat ng significant numbers or digit of your original value. So, ito naman, since this is greater than 1, so move natin yung decimal to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, yan. So, ito yung dapat positive to kasi malaki yung value. So, sorry. Dapat positive to. 1.3 times 10 raised to positive 9 hertz. So dito naman, so itong isa naman, so convert this so back to its original value. So positive yung 4. So therefore, ang pag-convert natin sa kanya, we move it to the right side. So back to its original value. So dito na lang sa isa. So we have here 4. So 4 times 1, 2, 3, and 4. So maglalagay tayo ng isa pang 0 dito. So 4, 3, 5, 2, and 0. So 43,520. Ito yung original value niya. So ito naman, since yung exponent natin is negative, ayan, so yung original value niya must be a number less than 1. So kung i-convert natin siya back to its original value, so 20 times tayo magbabalik doon. 20 times tayong mag-displace nitong decimal points to the left kasi negative yung exponent natin. So magbilang tayo. So we write here 0. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then yung pang 20 natin of course is 8. So 8, 9, 9, 0, 3. So nakikita nyo naman kung bakit kailangan natin i-express, so matutong mag-express ng number into scientific notation, because if you were going to write this down, masyadong mahaba. So number 8, so 87.2 times 10 raised to 2. So ito naman, to convert this back to its original, so just follow then, although mali yung pagkaka-express niya, 87.2 times 10 raised to 2. So pwede pa rin natin siyang i-convert back to its original value. So kung i-convert natin siya, i-move lang natin, since positive to, move natin yung decimal 2 times to the right. So therefore, ang original value na is 8,720. Yeah. So dito, yung 87, pag 87.2, tama yan, 87.2 times 10 raised to 2, if we want to express this again into correct number, ay correct scientific notation, so you need to convert it back to its original and then convert it back to scientific notation again. So ang gagawin natin is 87.2 times 10 raised to 2. So gagawin natin siyang 87 and then 8,720, and then express na natin siya into correct number of significant figures. So 1, 2, 3. So ito dapat yung pagkakasulat niya, 8.752 times 10 raised to 3. So ito yung correct significant notation or scientific notation nitong number na to. So dapat ganito yung pagkakasulat niya. Okay, so let's go to scientific or significant figures. So significant figures are digits that are known with certainty. So these are the numbers that we are sure of. So kapag nag-measure tayo, ito yung mga values na sure tayo na nakasama talaga siya dun sa measurement natin. So yan. So these are how we determine whether a value or a number in a certain value is significant. So rule number 1, all non-zero digits are significant. So kapag nakita kayo ng numbers from 1 to 9, lahat ng numbers na to ay significant. So dito, for example, 1.234. So diba, this is non-zero, 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 non-zero. So therefore, there are 4 significant digits to this number. So ito naman, meron tayong 3 non-zero. So therefore, 3 significant digits ang meron tayo. So second rule is zeros between two non-zero digits are significant. Kapag napapagitnaan yung zero ng mga non-zero numbers, significant yung zero na yon. So for example, 4, 0, and 5. So between 4 and 5, meron tayong 0. So this 0 is significant. And then 5, 0, 7. So this 0 is significant. So therefore, meron tayong 5 significant digits dito sa number na to. So dito naman 5.003. So meron tayo ditong 5, merong 0 sa gitna nung 5 and then 3. So dalawang 0. So therefore we have here 4 significant digits. So again, zeros between two non-zero are significant. Rule number 3, so zeros to the left of the first non-zero digits are not significant. So for example, ito 0.009 meter per second. So dito, ito yung first non-significant, first non-zero number natin, di ba? So meron tayong 0 to the left side of this number. So these zeros are not significant. Therefore, isa lang yung significant numbers natin. So dito naman, another example. So ito yung first non-zero digit natin. So all zeros to the left of this first non-zero digits are not significant. So kung bibilangin natin, 3 significant digits lang tong number na to. So dito ang reason natin. So in both examples, zeros were just used to locate the decimal. So therefore, it is not significant. So number 4, rule number 4, if a number is greater than 1, so kung mas malaki yung value sa 1, all zeros to the right of the decimal point are significant. So kapag mas malaki yung number, tapos naglagay ka ng decimal point, lahat ng 0 after ng decimal point ay significant. So ito yung number natin which is greater than 1, and then naglagay tayo ng decimal point, tapos naglagay tayo ng dalawang 0. So since nasa right side to ng 0 ay ng decimal point, this 0 are significant. So therefore, 3 significant digits dito sa 7.00 kilometers. So the same in this one. So 4.005.0 millimeters, there are 5 significant digits. So zeros placed after the decimal following a number greater than 1 are used to ascertain the measurement. So ito yung measure of certainty natin. So kapag sa tawag dyan, mga measuring device, alam natin na dapat merong 2 decimal places after our first number that is greater than 1. Dapat merong 2 decimal places. So yun yung certainty ng measuring device ninyo kung sa application o application natin ilalagay. So if a number is less than 1, only the zeros at the end of the number and zeros between two non-zero digits are significant. So for example dito, so meron tayo ditong, di ba, meron tayong 0.000. Ito yung first non-zero digit natin. So ibig sabihin, dun sa isang rule natin, di ba, zeros to the left of the first non-zeros are not significant. So ito, these are not significant. However, zeros to the right. So kung less than 1 yung ating value, so this is less than 1, di ba? Kasi 0.000120. So zeros to the right of the non-zero are significant. So ito. So we have here 1, 2, this is a non-zero. So we have here 0 pagkatapos ng 2. So therefore, this 0 is significant. So 3 significant digits. So the same din dito. So dito ma-apply natin dito. So between non-zero, this is significant, and ma-apply natin yung rule number 5 dito sa 0 na to. So therefore, 4 significant digits itong value na to. Okay, so yung reason dito, so in both examples, zeros to the left of the first non-zeros were just used to locate the decimal. So itong mga 0 dito, yan sa left, were just used to locate the decimal places, so the first non-zero digit. And then, zeros to the right are used to ascertain the measurement. Na ito yung measure of certainty ng measurement natin. Hanggang hanggang dyan dapat yung value. So, rule number 6, the zeros immediately to the left of unexpressed decimal point are not significant. So, for example, we have here value. Yan. So, 4,500. So, di ba wala tayo ditong nilagay na significant, na decimal point. So, therefore, since hindi naman expressed yung decimal point dito, therefore, these zeros here are non-significant. Pero kapag naglagay tayo ng decimal point after these two zeros are significant. Yan. Also, kapag naglagay tayo ng bar, ibig sabihin, yung zero kung saan nakasulat yung bar, hanggang dun yung significant digits natin. So, for example, so ito, 2 significant digits lang to kasi walang decimal point dito. Ito, 4 significant digits kasi meron tayong decimal place na nilagay dito after nung 0. So, dito, 4 significant digits kasi andito yung bar. So, dito naman, 3 significant digits kasi yung bar natin ay andito lang sa 0 na to. So, this is significant, significant, significant. This is significant, significant, and also this one. So, dito, lahat to significant. Ito lang ang significant. So, decimals and bars are used to ascertain the number of significant figures. So, concept builder number 7. So, ito, 1 to 5, and then ito yung, yeah. So, ito naman yung 6 to 10. So, balik muna tayo dun sa items 1 to 5. So, determine the correct number of significant figures for the following values. Yan. So, lagay nyo lang kung ilan yung significant figures dito. And then, that is for items 1 to 5. You can pause this video. And then, for items 6 to 10, ayan. So, let us now answer the concept builder. So, number 1, there are 6 significant digits kasi yung rule number 1, lahat ng non-zero digits are significant. So, we have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 non-zeros digit. So, therefore, 6 significant figures ang meron tayo. So, number 2, ayan. So, zeros between non-zeros are significant. So, therefore, tatlo yung significant digits natin. So, number 3, 7. Kasi meron tayo ditong non-zero, may non-zero. So, between them, yung nakalagay yung zeros between them. So, all these zeros are significant. So, dito naman, yan. So, 5. So, 1 significant digit lang siya. Kasi zeros to the left side of the first non-digit is not significant. So, dito din, we have here 4 significant digit. So, again, zeros to the left side of the first non-zero digit is are not significant. So, 500 naman, we have here 1 kasi wala tayo ditong decimal place. So, we did not express the decimal place here. So, therefore, these two are not significant. So, dito naman, we have here 3 significant figures kasi dito, wala din tayo ditong expressed decimal. So, therefore, ito lang yung significant. So, dito naman, we have here 4 significant digit kasi zeros to the right of the decimal is significant. So, since this is significant and this is significant, so between them, the zeros between them or the values between them are also significant. So, we have here 4 significant figures. So, number 9, we have here 3 significant figures. So, yung zeros to the left of the first non-zero are not significant. And then, zeros to the right of a non-zero digit are significant. Therefore, meron tayong 3 significant figures. And then, for our last item, 0.010. So, yan. So, there are 9 significant digits. So, itong zeros na to, not significant. Pero ito, this is a significant digit. So, therefore, 9 significant figures ang meron tayo. So, how do we apply the correct number of significant figures in calculation? So, for addition and subtraction, you need to look at the least number of decimals. So, yan. Look for the least significant digits after the decimal point. So, for example, dito, di ba, after the decimal point, ito, meron tayong 2 significant digits, ito, meron tayong 3 significant digits, ito, meron tayong isang significant digits. So, ang kailangan nating i-follow dito, in addition and in subtraction, you need to follow the number, the value with the least significant digit after the decimal point. So, since ito yung merong least significant digit, yung final answer natin must follow this one. So, yung makuha natin ditong value is 50.815. So, dyan. Therefore, in expressing this into correct number of significant figures, dapat isang decimal place lang ang andito sa sagot natin. So, round this off to the nearest tenths place. So, ilalagay lang natin dito is 50.8. Ayan na yung ating correct expression of our answer. So, kapag, for example, ang naging sagot natin is 50.86. So, since 6 to, para ma-express natin siya into correct number of significant figures, ira-round natin siya, itong number na to, into tens place. So, since 6 ito, round this up. So, 50.9. If the value is 5 and above yung kasunod na value. So, just recall the rules for rounding numbers. So, the same with subtraction. So, kapag nag-subtract ka, ipa-follow mo din yung value with the least number of significant figures to the right of the decimal. For multiplication and division naman, what we follow is the least significant digit. So, overall, hindi lang to the right of the decimal, pero overall. So, for example, dito, meron tayo ditong 3 significant numbers. Ito, meron tayong 2. Ito, meron tayong 4. So, what we need to remember is in multiplying and division, to write the correct answer or the final answer, dapat ipa-follow mo lang yung least number of significant digits in any factor. So, dito, meron tayong 3 factors dito. So, yung ipa-follow natin is ito. Kasi siya yung may pinakakaunting decimal at pinakakaunting significant digits. So, therefore, kung ito yung sagot natin, exact answer natin, express natin siya into 2 significant figures. So, since ito yung dalawang pinakamalaking number natin dito, so, i-round this off natin siya to this number. So, since 4 to, no need to round this up. So, rotate. So, ang sagot natin dito is 45,000. Ayan na nga. So, 45,000 cubic centimeter, or in scientific notation, 4.5 times 10 raised to 4 cubic centimeter. So, for example, nag-divide ka naman. So, 923, for example, divided by 4. So, diba, ito, meron tayong 3 significant digits. Ito, isa lang. So, kapag nagsulat ka ng final answer, so, ano kayang magiging sagot dito? It is 923 divided by 4 is equal to 203.75. But since ang least number of significant digit natin is 1, dapat ang pag-report natin dito, 1 significant digit din ng value nito. So, therefore, kung i-express natin siya into correct number of significant figures, ang sagot natin dito dapat 200 lang. So, ito lang yung significant natin. So, since 0 to, no need to express this. No need to round this number up. So, just rotate. So, 200 yung mag-i sagot natin dito following the rules of significant figures. So, that's all for this video. So, I hope you learned something. And if you have any question, you can always send me a message in my messenger, FB messenger. So, see you in our next video. Thank you.